Okay, where are you from and what do you do?
I come from Turkey. I am a professor at university in Turkey. I am interested in truffle. I have been studying truffle for 5 years. I have a project for Turkey truffles. The whole country we are scanning to collect truffles, but we are very new in this project. So I came here to study with Jim and Castellano at Corvallis Science Forest Laboratory. Now we are voluntary at field trip now. In Turkey, many truffle species we have. Winter truffles, also summer truffles. We have many species, but we don't know how many species we have exactly. So we are trying to diagnose them in Corvallis Forestry Scientific Laboratory.
All right, and how long do you think you'll be here to study?
For 3 months. I have new species now for species, the truffle species. So we are studying on it. Maybe we can publish it with Jim and Castellano, Dr. Castellano.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oregon white truffles, they're not poisonous, but not the kind of thing that people would really want to eat.
Well, then, so you have to know what you're looking at to get the right ones to eat? Or
Well, yeah, it's not hard. There are probably several hundred species of truffles here, what we would call in a broad sense truffles.
Yeah.
And of those, 4 or 5 are of interest to humans for eating.
Yeah.
None of them that we know of are poisonous.
Right.
So if you're interested in edible truffles, it's just like with mushrooms. You don't necessarily have to know all the mushrooms, but you have to know the ones you're interested in, and you have to know, in the case of mushrooms, the ones that might look like the ones you're interested in, but could be a poisonous, similar kind of mushroom that you don't want to eat.
Yeah.
So you don't have to know all of them. You got to know what you want, and you got to know the ones that are the bad lookalikes. So truffles and mushrooms are the fruit of a perennial underground fungus that you'll see sometimes in the form of a mycelial web in the soil. It looks kind of like a layer of mold. And they associate with the roots of trees. And in the case of the Oregon white truffles that people like to eat, they associate, as far as we know, exclusively with Douglas fir trees. And they seem to prefer those that are younger in the 20 to 50-year-old range. So as far as where to look for truffles, the first thing you want to identify if you're looking for Oregon white truffles, for example, is suitable habitat. And so the first screen, if you will, is to get yourself into a Douglas fir forest. Once you're in suitable habitat, there are some things that people look for that are clues. For example, if you see an area that looks like a small animal has been digging, it might look something like that, that's a good place to try to look. And the reason is the truffles in particular rely on small animals to distribute their spores. That's why they have these odors, so animals can find them underground. And so what happens is when a truffle matures, it starts to produce this scent, and the animals can smell it, and they'll dig them up and they'll eat them. And as the animal goes on its merry way, it drops fecal pellets as it goes, and these pellets then contain the truffle spores plus a nice mix of nitrogen and phosphorus and other fertilizer type things that plants like, so it's a perfect little packet. The other way that this whole strategy can be extended is if a squirrel eats a couple truffles and then gets picked up by an owl, for example, the owl might carry it, or hawk, for some distance. Take its catch up into a tree. The first thing the raptor does is rip the guts out and drops them on the ground. The guts, of course, are full of truffle spores. So this is a method that the truffles have developed to distribute their spores, in contrast to what a mushroom does, where it pops up above the ground and drops spores off the cap from a height of 2 or 3 inches. And so most of the spores from a mushroom cap fall over a very short area, 90% probably within 2 or 3 feet. And so the strategy of the truffles is perhaps more effective at spreading their spores at greater distances. The below ground habit also protects them from the vagaries of weather such as desiccation and freezing. So anyways, the roots in this forest are everywhere beneath our feet, and the fungus on the roots are everywhere beneath our feet. And so while looking where animals have dug is maybe increases your odds a little bit, also looking like where rotten wood is, because that will keep the soil moist longer in the year, or low areas. But really it's a matter of how much you rake, being persistent and patient, and a little bit lucky. And so for the truffles we're looking for here, we're simply removing the top surface of the litter layer. The truffles tend to like to live right at the interface between the mineral and organic soils. They don't have to be very deep. And if you find a truffle, it'll pretty much pop out of the ground, and you'll see it's not a dirt clod. We're a little lucky here. Here, like this guy. See this right there? That's a truffle. This one isn't an Oregon white truffle. It's clearly not a rock. And if we're lucky, sometimes you'll find more than one. This one is called the deer truffle. Oh, here's one. This is not edible for people. The Latin name is Elaphomyces. I think this one is Muricatus. And here's an interesting aspect of this truffle. Is it has usually a dark powdery interior that even animals don't like to eat. See, this one's not quite mature yet. No. Actually, you know what? This isn't an Elaphomyces. Now that I look at it, it's a tuber. But I'll tell you about Elaphomyces anyways. They have a powder on the inside that animals don't like to eat. What they do is they munch away at the rind on the outside, often from the safety of a perch in a tree. And when they're done eating the rind, they pitch the powdery spore mass on the interior over their shoulders, if you will, and it falls from a distance. And as it hits tree branches, it breaks apart, and the spore mass is distributed from a height by the breeze. So it's depending on the breeze, like mushrooms do, but much more effective at dropping the spores from a higher altitude, with the hope that they'll spread further. So another thing we can talk about truffles is the fact that the mycorrhizae, the mycelium that I mentioned in the soil, is very important for the health of forests. Trees are only so good at getting water and nutrients with their own roots. And so what happens is this fungus actually wraps around the root tips and infiltrates between the root cells. And the hyphae go throughout the soil. And they are much more adept at gathering nutrients from the soil than the trees are. To the extent that without this mycorrhizal relationship, most trees won't live at all. They'll die from lack of water and nutrient. So it's very important to have this component of the ecosystem. In exchange, the truffles get carbohydrates from the trees. So it's a symbiotic, a mutually beneficial relationship. The tree benefits from the truffle mycorrhizae, and the truffle mycorrhizae benefits from its association with the tree. So, and you had asked about finding things at different altitudes and with different tree species. Oregon white truffles, as I mentioned, grow exclusively, so far as we know, with Douglas fir trees. And you'll find them at any elevation Douglas fir are found. So that's basically from sea level up to subalpine, maybe 3,500 feet. There are, though, hundreds of species of truffles here, and of which the Oregon white, the Oregon black, the Oregon brown are just a few, the ones that we're interested in eating. But different tree species have different kind of truffles associated with them. And in fact, Douglas fir is known to associate with about 2,000 different species of mycorrhizae. When you get into old growth forests, you'll find fewer Oregon white truffles, but a greater diversity of different truffle species that may not be necessarily as interesting to us for the dinner table, but they're actually more interesting to us as ecologists. It's much greater biodiversity in old growth forests than you find here. You might find more biomass, but less biodiversity in these young forests.
JC here.
And I know we get about 3 times
We're not
about
right,
a little bit of television.
right here, you're probably at about 750, 700.
They call it creeping Charlie. Here, small leaf. No. Probably introduced. Probably came over on the Mayflower.
Yeah.
They use this for preserving and flavoring beer before they discovered hops. So when the Europeans came over, they brought this with them for their brewing.
Yeah.
Now it's everywhere.
It is interesting.
Yeah, as far as invasives go, I've seen worse. This one's the mint, and it grows like a vine, a creeping vine. And this one here is more of an upright little kind of succulent plant.
And that's edible.
Yeah, it's called miner's lettuce. I forget the Latin name. But it's real common in openly disturbed areas. If you go wandering around in clear cuts, this stuff is everywhere in the springtime. Very, very common. And this one is a native.
And so what are these?
Blackberry.
Oh, it is just blackberry.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh,
So it
definitely.
doesn't get big because there's not enough sun?
This is probably, well, I don't know. It may be that. There's also a creeping vine blackberry, a native here, that never really gets very tall.
Oh, and it still produces?
Yeah, but usually the critters get the berries before you ever see them.
Oh.
And then here's another cool thing. You know, the subject of truffles, let's see.
Yeah.
This is a vetch, which is in the pea family.
Does that get those little orange berries on it?
I don't think they're orange berries.
So
but I'm
that's
not
only
sure.
a vine that doesn't grow into a bush.
There's several different species. There's one called a giant vetch that'll get about this tall. Let me find another one. Vetch is in the pea family, and members of the pea family fix nitrogen out of the air and help to fertilize the soil. And they do this by symbiosis in their roots with a kind of bacteria. And anyways, the pea family plants will do this, and lupins, and also alders. Here's some more cool stuff. And make sure I'm not making a mistake here.
Come here, JC. JC, come here, show me. Is it still there, or did you eat it?
Edible?
Yeah.
Sometimes if they're real little, she eats them.
No,
little
this is the wild ginger. It's not a true ginger.
So do you use the leaf or the stem? Or?
I personally don't use any of it. But some people do. Ooh, look at that. Wild at work here.
I would dig and look there. Sometimes they're very minute. Alright, you should go find another. Go find it. Find it.
Are they yelling heron?
I don't know. Honestly, I wasn't listening very carefully.
That one there.
I don't think so. Just a light rock.
Okay.
She very seldom false alert, so there probably was something, but it could have been very, very tiny, and she could have actually eaten it.
I'm not seeing anything there, so.
Now, do they go down as far as 6 inches or so? Or?
Some do, but most are not as deep. Feel guilty about breaking up this ginger.
That's okay. My wife will now know. The nice thing is now I can bring her up here and she'll now know where she's got more wild ginger.
Yeah. And did you see the poison oak patch over here?
Yeah, but I'm not worried about it.
No, you're not. I didn't used to get poison oak. Do you think that inoculating effect would work through the vector of Cheddar cheese?
As long as they've been feeding on poison oak.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, of course, who knows where the goats were that got the cheese, you know.
But I mean, if you were to make some chèvre, for example, out of...
Yeah. Now, we've made yogurt, and we've gone and... okay, it's real easy making yogurt. What you do is just milk the goat, then take about a large tablespoon of fresh culture, say like any of your nice normal natural yogurts from the store.
Yeah.
Throw it on. Last batch we threw in day after on the pizza oven, and it gave us about 2 quarts of yogurt.
You keep it at temperature for a little while?
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, overnight, about 6 hours, 8 hours.
Yeah.
That's it.
Easy.
Nice thing about yogurt then afterwards, you can take some, if you got too much yogurt, you take some cheesecloth, pour it into the cheesecloth, let it drain, and what your goat yogurt will become is somewhere between a cross between a cream cheese and sour cream. Nice spreadable.
Very good. Good. Oh, what's this? Yeah, so we can look around and see if there's any of these nearby.
Are they usually solitary? Is that one?
Often, yeah, here's another little one here. So there's that guy. There's that guy. And here's another one.
Are those hard, or are they the soft cookies?
These are squishy ones. I think they're rhizopogons.
Okay, we don't want her to find those. She doesn't get rewarded for those.
Yeah.
Over here.
Okay, we'll have a look at the insides of these here. And this is a good time to emphasize the importance, if you look for truffles. Can you hold these, Aaron? Thanks. To replace the duff after you rake in an area, it really helps the soil to heal over much more quickly. Oops, is this another? Yeah, there you go. And sometimes you find more truffles.
Which species?
I think that's a rhizopogon.
Rhizopogon.
But
yeah.
We've done research plots where we've gone back to the same areas and truffled every 6 months. And when you replace the duff, more needles fall out of the tree and cover the area over, and after 6 months, often you can hardly tell that anyone's been there. There's been some research also about leaving the soil exposed in the context of matsutake harvest, and they found that when you leave the bare mineral soil open to the air, that it's very detrimental to the health of the fungi. And the likelihood of the mushrooms or truffles or whatever you're looking for coming back the next year is greatly diminished if you don't cover the soil. And it's basically just a mulching effect, keeping the moisture level up in the mineral soil. So let's cut that guy in half. And it's white on the inside.
No, not rhizopogon.
No, Elaphomyces, you think?
Maybe, but I don't...
not rhizopogon.
Not
So,
rhizopogon.
if you look carefully, you can see this has a dark interior, a little bit darker, and it's kind of bruising a little bit.
Immature, maybe.
And a thick outer rind. This, whatever it is immature. There's a couple of different